The events of this story begin in a company that operates under the following slogans for employees. Results above all. Work without results is useless. If you don't want to work, go instead of complaining. Engage in self-development. They often order that everything be ready by morning. Management often threatens employees with dismissal and says there is a queue for their position. In reality, the company operates under a sweatshop system. Employees often have to sleep at their workplaces. William wakes up in a cold sweat and does not understand if it was a dream. He overslept again, so he sleepily begins to get ready for work. On the way, colleagues greeted him, and one of them, an older man with a thick beard, asked if William was late for work again the day before. MC replies that he had to prepare a report, as instructed by head Barnett. Already at the workplace, the bearded man hands William an additional order from the Avert family. William, thank you for this. The bearded man is surprised at how much the clients love him. He says that taking additional orders is not bad, but if the main plan for the month is not fulfilled, there will be problems with the head. When colleagues look at the plan and tasks on the stand and see the following numbers, they realize that these plans are completely unrealistic. William is well aware of the situation and knows how things really are. Immersed in work, William takes another order, a chair for restoration, and examining it, is outraged by the rough repair done by an unknown person. MC knows that this chair is from the village of Miguel, from Grandma Jess, who reported that her knitting chair broke. After inspecting the item, William decides to replace the armrests, round them off, and make the armrest a bit more comfortable for the hands. A brief explanation. William works at the Barnett Trading Company, one of the largest in their kingdom of Dal. The company trades various goods from spoons to weapons, and the customers range from peasants to aristocrats. William works in the company as a craftsman because his only skill is craftsmanship, and in general, craftsmanship is quite common in the kingdom. There are so many masters like William that he has nowhere to go except this place. He feels like he is just drifting with the river's current. A bearded man's voice is heard saying it's ready. He says to take it and hands over the repaired chair to the delivery department for further transportation. The goods are loaded onto horse carts and delivered directly to the customers. With the words, "Don't be late," the postcards quickly go to the recipients, and it is thanks to fast logistics that this trading company was able to grow significantly. A voice is heard throughout the company. Work harder, your goods will enrich this trading house. William understands by the voice that the head of Barnett is starting a round of the workplaces. He approaches closer and shouts, "Hey, William." MC turns around, and the head, who is already nearby, says that this month William again did not meet the plan, and MC apologizes. The head asks if the documents he requested yesterday are ready, demands a quicker response, and reminds that replacing anyone is not a problem. William has a flashback. William remembers that he is dead. Once he worked at an exploitative company and died from overwork. Now he is alive, so his reincarnation has occurred. The head's voice, "William, bring the documents," brings MC back to reality. "Yes, yes, I'm coming," William replies and quickly prepares the documents. Already in the head's office, Barnett reviews the documents and asks about the client base and trend analysis. William answers that he has done it. At the same time, looking at Barnett with a face distorted by dissatisfaction, he realizes that he looks exactly like his boss from his past life. Barnett raises his head and with a smile says that William is fired. The host, confused, asks again how this is possible. Barnett adds that his son will take the position and take over the business. The head thanks William for his work. What does all this mean? Head Barnett cannot calm down William. The head claims that William works too slowly and does not meet production plans, and Barnett adds that the company does not need such worthless craftsmen. MC tries to justify himself and explains that he offers clients exactly what they really need. Barnett replies that the buyer will not pay for what does not exist in reality. Buyers do not demand quality and will buy from stock. We must adhere to the slogan cheaper, faster, and in larger volumes than others. The head sums up, that's all. William is stunned by the decision made. Barnett suggests MC pack his things, and if everything is clear, leave. The head addresses his son and asks him to start, but it should be taken into account that William's regular clients were the most valuable and wealthiest in the company. Barnett continues, William's products were sold out for some reason, although they were practically no different from other goods, but he works too slowly, so he cannot get the most out of the rich clients. The head asks his son to take the vacant position and squeeze all the money out of the wealthy. Barnett says that valuable clients attract other valuable clients, so his son must succeed. The son replies that there is no need to worry, Dad. William leaves the head's office and exhales sharply, as if Walking down the corridor, he recalls which personal belongings he needs to take. Already in the office, William begins to prepare. First, he takes from the top shelf of the cabinets the dusty shinji, the sacred staff of Ristake. Once the leader of the S-rank adventure group gave him this item, it is a rare artifact that allows controlling the magic of all elements. William saved it in case it might be needed someday, but decided that magic was not for him, so he never used it. William thinks about the word magic, but he has been reincarnated. This is real magic. It is only possible in a world where magic exists. When William returns home, he hears familiar sounds, pi dash, pi dash. It's Ruddy the owl greeting him. A friend from the herd sits on William's hand. The main character turns to the owl and realizes that it has probably been waiting for him for a long time and now doesn't know what to do next. William thought that even after reincarnation in another world, he again found himself in the office of some scoundrels and almost went down the same path, so he decided that enough was enough and from now on he would live differently. Taking his things and the sacred staff of Ristak and Ruddy, he sets off on the road with the thought of enjoying life to the fullest and using the second chance he was given. William decides to say goodbye to his regular clients before leaving and at the same time takes a chair and visits Grandma Jess. Thus begins his first step into a new life. As he planned, William first goes to Grandma Jess, gives her the repaired chair, wishes her good health, and says goodbye to all the neighbors. Next, the Averg family. You will not be able to fulfill additional orders, so you need to apologize. Arriving at the Averg family castle, William announces that he has written a resignation letter and will no longer be able to carry out orders. The head of the family is simply in despair at this news. He says that without William he will not cope and will simply disappear. MC apologizes, is very sorry, and says he will stay and work instead of him. The head of the family explains that the latter is the son of the very Barnet. He has never heard anything good about him. Earlier, he worked in a nightclub to attract more attention from women. There he entered into various relationships with women, for which he was expelled, and so he ended up in his father's trading company. Hediver says that what William does is significantly different from the work of other masters. Although the forms are similar, every detail is carefully worked out, and he primarily cares about the future owner of the items. A sword purchased from William is shown as an example of such confirmation. The head says that it was created taking into account the features of the future owner, with a thoughtful handle and balance. William is more skillful than any blacksmith, Avert says with admiration. The main character says that he made this wonderful sword thanks to acquaintance with a wonderful master from whom he learned. The chapter states that besides liking the things William made, he did not try to gain the trust of his house, Averk, and he liked William's sincerity. He and his family sincerely regret that further cooperation will not be possible. William, thank you for such generous words. The head of the bird tries to find out what William plans to do next. The MC begins to answer, actually, and walks away on the road. At this moment the father is heard. The family's daughter enters the room. She calls herself Limit. The father again asks the daughter if she heard the conversation with William. The further path of EMC lies in the kingdom of Merkais. Arriving at the place, William realizes that he has not been in these parts for a long time. At Murky's castle, he is greeted by Gyuri, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Murkys. He is very upset about William's visit after a long absence and delivers the unpleasant news about leaving the trade guild, and an even worse news is that the latter must become the successor. William understands the minister's reaction and wonders how many more times he will have to see such a scene. But MC says he came not only to deliver news, but also with a request. The minister finds out what the request is. William explains that he has a mountain hut near the capital in the village of Bergen and wants to open a workshop there. The minister became interested in the workshop in their country. William says he initially wants to take his time with preparing the workshop. The minister immediately gives a decisive permission because he is very glad that such a talented master as William will live in their country. The minister promises to send a confirmation letter to the village of Bergen. He wants to work diligently and spare no effort. William sincerely thanks in response. Here finally William and Ruddy found themselves in the village near the hut, and William says that this will be the beginning of their new life. The hut is a small wooden house that has tilted over time. Parts of the roof have collapsed. The building clearly needs repairs. Ruddy accepts the new dwelling without much enthusiasm. Standing in front of the house, William thinks it is so-so, but it is a decent place to start, and the village elder Bergen has already given permission, and the main character says he is a craftsman and can clean the house himself. But today, after a long journey, it is necessary to quickly have dinner and go to sleep. William continues to sleep soundly at dawn, and during sleep, a knock is heard at the door. Without getting out of bed, he asks who is there. In response, silence. He approaches the door and opens it slightly. A beautiful blonde woman stands before him and says, "Good morning, William." The main character is puzzled and surprised. "Say it again, Mrs. Limit." William does not understand how a beautiful woman got here. Limit says that from now on she wants to make a pact of loyalty with him. William asked again, not believing what he heard. Thus, quite unexpectedly, the second life of the main character began. With inspiration and a sparkle in her eyes, she says that she found him. The MC asks again what she is doing here. Limit begins to explain that after William left, a House was dissatisfied with both the Barnett Trading Company and the new manager who came last. Limit reports that their family terminated the contract with Barnett. The host's eyes bulged, his mouth dropped open. He could only utter the word, "What?" and witnesses to the conversation between William and Limit were the lady, her maid standing at a distance behind her, and Ruddy on the roof of the shack. The events began a few days ago, when the Averg family arrived at the Barnett Company. They were met by Mr. Barnett himself with his son, and he said that from now on everyone at Barnett would do everything possible to satisfy all requests. Finally, casting a sly glance at the Averg family, he very tactfully addressed Lady Limit and said he was glad to meet them for the first time. At the same time, he took the lady's right hand, pulled her to himself, and kissed it, saying that he was the last, introduced himself as Barnett, and added that he was pleased to meet her, and Limit was so embarrassed and confused by this that she only giggled. The Averg family was very dissatisfied with how the meeting was going. It was visible from his gaze and facial expression. Lennet was also very upset. Barnett announced that the order was ready, and that he, as the last one, had personally fulfilled it. At that moment, the workers brought in boxes with packed doors. Finally, he gave the order, which included choruses for the personal protection of the House. The Averg family took the chorus in his hands and examined the product. He seriously and intently asked if Head Barnett had checked the final finish. Barnett, in a good mood, energetically replied that yes, of course. William's design allowed the chorus to adapt to the owner's body. The head of the verb continued speaking, while he seriously examined the finished product. This chorus is not adjustable and touches the hand. He added that it is impossible to properly swing a sword with it. Limit glanced sideways at his father and felt his indignation. The soldiers from the House are like family to him. He continued speaking in a raised voice. He cannot expose them by arming them with crude and one-sided equipment. The head of already said indignantly that he sees neither sincere attitude to work nor the honesty you expect from a weapons supplier, and the attitude towards his daughter is completely unacceptable. Finally, he turned completely pale, and his gaze became sad. The head of the maiden announced that he was terminating the contract. William listens to this story with great surprise, and the pupils of his eyes widened incredibly. Limit says that after all this, the question arose about the future of the Averb House. She thought and decided to conclude an exclusive contract with William, and the place was offered by Minister Gory. "Okay," William responds after listening to the story to the end. Limit says that under the conditions William is currently in, it is impossible to work. MC's gaze looks away after such an assessment from the lady. But Limit cheerfully says that she is here because she wants them to continue cooperating and came to help. William is interested in what she is going to do. Limit the answers. The father gave permission. The main heroine explains what this means. She says if William does not object. The servants accompanying the mistress say in unison that everyone wants to live here. William opens his mouth in surprise, and his eyes widen greatly. And yet she always dreamed of such a life, says Limit, and begins to spin in a dance with incredible pleasure. One of the maids said that the mistress always dreamed of the life of an adventurer, and that is why it happened. A girl with long hair and formal clothes approaches the main hero. She addresses him as Mr. William and says that they have not seen each other for a long time. Her name is Agnes. She is the senior maid in the House. William is surprised by her presence, and she adds that she was ordered to accompany the young lady by the head of the family. Agnes begins to tell that the young lady was very worried about Mr. William when he left the company, and now she is very glad that she was able to meet him again. During the conversation, the maids were unloading the luggage that was brought with them on carts. Agnes says that the Averg family, of course, will support Mr. William, but she herself also wants to help. William thanks, but he prefers to work diligently and simply live a peaceful second life, saying these words with a touching look and closed eyes. Auguste wearily asks to explain what he means. William says no, nothing, turns around and leaves, thinking what a wonderful morning it is today. So things were going, and he was going to lead a quiet life. Shouts are heard nearby, "Come on, pull." The major begins to set up the 10th camp. They work with inspiration and passion. William looks at them, a spark ignited in his dim gaze, a smile appeared on his face. Recalling previous years of work, MS does not remember periods of life when he worked in a team. He sees the boarder and the maids who are glad to set up another tent, and thinks that it is worth trying to live this life differently. William was in his dreams when Limit could not hold on and fell to the floor again, letting out a piercing scream. The maids tried to help her, but she only screamed from surprise. Getting up, she thinks that setting up the tent is also not easy. William approaches them and says that the tent will be cramped for 5, and it is dangerous to spend the night outside, and Limit tries to argue with him. William approaches her, looks at her face and says that, since Mr. Arverg has given his consent, and Mrs. Limit is inclined to this then. MC emotionally begins to ask what everyone thinks about moving together to his little house, and he is just about to do repairs and is ready to add a few rooms. Limit received an unexpected but pleasant offer, and her eyes opened very wide. She asks because she does not want to burden William and worries that they might get in the way. MC cheerfully winks with his left eye and replies that it is always more interesting together. In a large company, they will be like a real team of adventurers. William reports that expansion requires a lot of materials and asks for help. Everyone agrees. There was a forest around. In a short time, they managed to harvest quite a large amount of construction timber. Looking at the stockpiles, William says that this is quite enough. When everything was ready, Williams enthusiastically got to work. He inspects the cabin and realizes that when everything is falling apart, it is not time to expand. It is necessary to start with repairs. At first, MC removes all the destroyed and unusable elements of the building. Then the structure is reinforced. Limit and May watch with admiration as William works. She looks out the window of the hut and plunges into memories. Limit recalls she, together with her maid Agnes, was preparing for an important family event, but was not in the mood. Agnes said that the mistress should not grieve because she is beautiful, and such a look would make all her charm disappear. Try to limit objections. Agnes continued, tonight is an important reception because they are choosing a bridegroom for her. Schmidt obediently sat in front of the mirror, and Agnes kept talking and asked her not to think about running away again like last time, but the lady was very offended by such words. Limit understood that she was the only daughter in the Avert family. At various events, nobles often tried to get to know her and start relationships in order to gain power over the Avert family through her father. In reality, no one cares about her personally. Continuing to recall the past, he heard a voice behind him. "I brought you the evening dress. It is ready." Turning around, she sees William before her with surprise. Lady Limit immediately tries on the dress and rejoices at her own reflection in the mirror. Agnes and William hurry and hem the dress, and William asks how she feels in it. William begins to explain that the lady is used to gesticulating actively during conversation, so he made sure that the embroidery on the cuffs looked impressive during her movements. Looking at the cuffs of the dress together, William continues to explain that the image on the cuffs is a flower fairy, a symbol of the flight of fantasy, purity, and freedom, and means Tenbakoku. William says he considered it ideal for her, and Limit looks at him with a sparkle in her eyes. A voice is heard, and that's all. Limit returns from pleasant memories. Before her is a new window and a completely renovated hut, unrecognizable. William cheerfully announces a limit on clothing. He says their estate is, of course, still far away, but this hut is quite suitable for an overnight stay. The lady replies that she disagrees because it is a wonderful shelter for adventures. This impresses. The hut has completely transformed, shining with fresh paint and smelling of new building materials. It is no longer an old half-ruined building. William, Limit, and the maids enter the renovated hut. The main character inspects the repair results inside and says it would be good to furnish everything with furniture and necessary items to make it a real base. Limit is very pleased with the situation and thanks William, smiling and squinting her eyes with satisfaction. MC happily says it is time to have dinner. Everyone worked so hard that they didn't even have time to have lunch. He says there is a river nearby, and in his opinion, one can catch fish there. Limit touched her face with her hands and thought. She had never been fishing before but really wanted to try, so she actively supported this proposal. Then William suggests cutting a few branches and making their own fishing rods. They all go to the riverbank to fish. Agnes is the first to show her skills. She skillfully uses the fishing rod and fishing net. The other maids look at her with great admiration. William also notices that Agnes is very good at fishing. Limit started biting and from surprise grabbed a stick with both hands and screamed. William got bitten. MC calmly responds, Lady Limit gently pulled you to herself. Due to lack of experience, the fish slips off the hook. William approaches the upset woman and calms her down. Madam, next time everything will definitely work out. She turns to William with a request, and he asks to clarify the topic. Limit stands before William, and Shaylee lowers her eyes and asks him to stop addressing her formally. The main character is embarrassed. The lady continues, she is younger than William, and it will be better if he starts addressing her as an equal. The MC tries to object. Limit can no longer stand it, and hysterically shouts that from now on addressing with you is forbidden. William, rubbing the back of his head and smiling, replies that it is understood. The lady demands to be called just by her name. The host, embarrassed after hesitating, says Limit. When the work is done, his mistress praises him. The splashing of fish is heard in the river. Ruddy says that the fish are biting, so something needs to be done. William and Limit take the fishing rod together, and MC advises how to carefully reel in the fish. Meanwhile, in a completely different place, Ari Takebana, the leader of the Moonlight Adventure Group, is conducting another hunt. She's a fragile but agile adventurer girl with long dark hair and a patch over her right eye. Her weapon is an ice whip. She knocks out the royal Herakros, as testified by the adventurers accompanying her. She returns home, greeted by a large group of adventurers who are happy not only about her return, but also about the considerable amount of resources she brought from the hot spot. Laston is also among those who welcome Lady Takebana and tries to find out how much she liked his whip. The woman passes by without looking his way. He continues to check if his product is not too luxurious, as he used the skin of the sea crocodile Amoas. He also asks next time about boots. Finally, he shows his boots and boasts that they are made from noble deer leather. He regrets dirtying such boots, but the situation here is just terrible. Lasting does not calm down and continues to find out if the lady liked his products, because he did not come here in vain. Finally, he hears a sharp response from Uri. This whip is good for nothing. Last is simply surprised by this. He hands the whip to the last one and says that the attack power has not increased, it completely lacks strength. She adds something else, looking thoughtful and serious. This is by no means William's level, not at all. She no longer feels the strength she had before. The last one, entering with a gloomy look, watches and wonders how these whips might differ. At that moment, one of the travelers approaches and says that a letter has arrived for Uri. From whom, Uri indicates. From Verg House, the messenger explains. The castle of the Verg family, a meeting is planned for this evening. Meanwhile, William and Limit are fishing cheerfully and productively. In the office of the Barnett Company, a powerful knock of a fist on the table was heard. Mr. Barnett, sitting at his desk, shouted in incredible anger and demanded explanations about what was happening and why clients were one after another breaking contracts with our guild. He continued. He yells at the employees standing before him with lowered heads, addressing Idle and demanding explanations. Laston enters and addresses him. He adds that the leader of the Moonlight Group recently received a letter from Verg House. She is a former client of William, so there is suspicion that Verg House is plotting against them. Mr. Barnett became even angrier and fears that she is planning something behind our backs. Barnett shouts that he will not allow him to do whatever he wants and demands an immediate thorough investigation of all this information. Uri seems to be already walking through the corridors of a Vert Palace to a business meeting. Entering the conference hall, she sees that besides her there are 3 more people here, and Mr. Freed announces that everyone has gathered. Mr. Reverb starts the meeting, saying that all the most influential clients of Williams from various fields have gathered here. Meanwhile, everyone present listens attentively. Freed continues to tell about the results of his investigation. He says that leaving William in the shadows any longer would be an unacceptable loss of talent. At first glance, his work seems simple and unpretentious, but they are thought out to the smallest details, made with attention to the client, comfortable and beautiful. They all simply need him, continues Mr. Freed, and therefore he asks for support by providing the necessary assistance. Mr. Saxon is a gray-haired, respectable man with a thick beard and mustache, the head of the Misty Green Island. Freed tries to find out his attitude to the situation, to which Mr. Saxon replies that he highly values William's work and does not mind helping him because he is a good person. Moreover, William is a good person, and he does all this because his daughter likes him. She understands people well, so probably he is good. It seems so, Mr. Saxon, says Freed with a mysterious smile on his face. Freed turned to his next interlocutor, Mr. Tennis, to find out what the legendary blacksmith would say about the situation. Rumor has it that he was the one who taught William the blacksmith's craft. Yes, it was something to see when he worked so passionately, says Tennis. He is a respectable gray-haired man, wise with life experience, with an unshaven, not very well-groomed face and long eyebrows, and his hair tied in a bun at the nape. Tennis adds that William has a talent for blacksmithing. He likes to create things, and Tennis wants to help him develop further. He asked the girl named Tennis, who was sitting nearby, what she thinks of Iritakabana. Iri replies that her main weapon was created by William, and she has never seen anything better in her life, and where he went is a big question for her. Mr. Fried calmly and businesslike suggests moving on to the main topic and begins to explain that some time ago William came to say goodbye before leaving. Mr. Averg asked what William plans to do next, and he replied that he has a request for the Minister of Foreign Affairs, read from the Kingdom of Merkais. Mr. Saxon asks if Mr. Gory knows where he is now. Mr. Averg answers yes. He asked Limit's daughter to take care of William and accompany him in life, because he himself could not leave home, and Limit set off on the road. She is already grown up. It's time for her to travel. Fried continues speaking emotionally. From these words Aries' haze changed. She pondered something, so he gave his daughter away, Tennies thinks. Saxon looks askance at Fried with a serious, dissatisfied expression. So they bypassed her, Aries states. Saxon stammers and says he remembered urgent matters. He apologizes and leaves the meeting. Tennies says he completely forgot to pass on a message to his granddaughter. Old age brings no joy. He ends the conversation and leaves. Iri says she also cannot stay any longer, and they all leave the palace together. Fried remained alone at the table, resting his face on his hand and closing his eyes, thinking that everyone thinks the same. Meanwhile, in William Limit's hut, she enjoys a cup of aromatic tea and asks William what happened. He is preparing dinner, takes a jar of spices, looks inside it, and says that they need to buy spices because there are more here, and he wants more variety in the food. William says that today they will go shopping and make a short trip to the port town of Bart. Limit asks if they will go there by her carriage. She says that then they will ask someone to look after her in the village of Bergen. At that moment, a squeak is heard, and Ruddy returns to them. And before their eyes, Ruddy begins to grow and squeaks happily. William explains that Ruddy can become so big that people can sit on him. Limit says, "Nice bird," and Pat happily strokes Ruddy on the head. The whole company comfortably settled on Ruddy's back and took off, and after a few minutes, William shouted that he already sees it and asked to look. On the horizon, the coastline and the port town of Bart were visible. After a successful landing, the whole friendly company, in good spirits, enters the town, which mostly consists of small one-story buildings and has a port right within the city limits, with fishing boats lined up along the shore. And also placed on land along the shore. First of all, they go to the city market and notice that it has become livelier. Someone behind says, "Hello, William, how old are you?" The main character turns around. In front of him stands a dark-haired man about 50 years old with a thick beard and mustache. He friendly introduces himself as Mayor Markham, and looking at his companion William, asks if this is your fiancé. William Markham stops. The main character asks not to joke because he is with the daughter of the Avert family. Averg shouted at Markham in surprise, apologized for the rudeness, and asked how William ended up next to her, then quietly whispered in his ear again, and the main character said that it was a whole story. William, surprised, says that the market is very lively. Maybe something has changed in the city since his last visit. Markham replies that deposits of magical ore have been discovered near the city. There are many more people, more shops and enterprises. Maybe William should think about opening his own store, ask Markham. The unexpected question makes the MC stop and think. Limit, who accompanies him, immediately got excited by the idea and told William that it was a great thought and suggested opening his own business, but William calmly replied no. Saying goodbye, Markham asks William to think about the proposal. He is sure that it will succeed because he can achieve it. William thinks about what to invent so that it sells well. In general, he reflects on what the locals want to buy, even closing his eyes and straining his brain in search of an idea. And suddenly it occurs to him, because today he came to buy groceries, and they all start wandering around the city market together. And now they happily walk away with bags full of various products. Limit says they bought quite a lot of vegetables. William notices that later they will be able to plow the land near the house and start a garden. Limit says joyfully, and the main character replies thank you, but without experience even using a hoe is dangerous, and he suggests relying on his skills. Welcome, young people, says an elderly woman with a covered head, the fish stall seller. Looking at the stall, William cannot help but notice how delicious the fish is. The fish seller asks what kind of broth it has. Hearing the word broth, William thought that the broth was, of course, good. But if we could get some soy sauce, we could make sashimi and seafood delicacies. But in this world, eating raw fish is not customary. He continues to ponder. Another interesting thing is soy sauce, miso. If you grow soy in the field, maybe you can make miso, he keeps thinking. Immersed in memories, William realizes he misses his grandmother's childhood dishes. Agnes interrupts his thoughts with the question, William, what happened? C returns to reality and replies that nothing special. He believes that since he recovered memories of his previous life, he has been strongly drawn to Japanese cuisine. Their company moves away from the market, and they see a fishing schooner unloading the catch. Then they approach the unloading place and are greeted by one of the fishermen. William looks through the boxes with the catch. Something catches his attention, and he shouts loudly in surprise. He asks if it is a kraken. The fisherman replies that yes, there are small krakens in the local waters. In winter, they swim to the northern seas and grow to large sizes there, he continues. I ask if they eat it. No, no one eats such a horror. They just constantly get caught in the nets, the fisherman replies. He says that krakens eat fish right in the nets, so it has to be ground up and used as fish feed. It's a pity, William thinks. After some thought, he asks permission to take it, and the fisherman replies that if he needs it, he can take it, but asks what he will do with it. William, smiling, takes the kindling with him. At that moment, the large catamaran docks at the shore with a creak. Shouts are heard on the shore. Mr. Saxon has returned. People are happy. Returning, Saxon confidently steps off the deck of his ship. Turning to him and saying these words, the girl threw herself around his neck. Saxon asks her if Sonal behaved well during his absence. A tall young man greeting Saxon says he is glad to see his father, and Saxon replies to him and thanks Ganel for taking care of the house. Sonal and Ganel together ask if they will really see William. William and Limit stand in the yard near the house. William is crafting something with 2 gears and thinks that to make it turn, he will have to build a windmill. Limit watches over his shoulder, says she just returned from the town of Gaybart and is already crafting something. She is curious about what exactly he is making. Soon, just as the main character was about to answer, quick footsteps were heard, and William tensed, listening intently, not understanding who it could be. At that moment, a short brunette runs in and joyfully throws herself to hug him. She calls William and Sonal. He recognizes the girl and responds with hugs. William is met by a tall, dark-haired young man, and MC, seeing Ganel, immediately runs up to him and asks what he is doing here. Limit S's expression changes. She's very displeased and does not hide it. What happened, Limit? William asks. Ruddy, long time no see. Sonal addresses the owl as it flies away. William gathers all the guests in the house and asks for a moment of attention, introduces Sonal from Jade Island and her elder brother Genel, and the guests in response greet everyone present. Sonal says that when her father returned from a trip, he asked her to help William, so she is here. Ganel says that he also wants to be useful to Mr. William. William in response asks what that means. Present Limit says that Kira Shima is the leader of the Saxons. William asks how she learned about the Saxons. Actually, Limit says that her father recently contacted all of Williams's former clients, including Saxon. They all gathered at the Avert family estate, and, as it seemed to her, mostly talked about William because everyone wanted to help him. Help, thinks William. Sonal says that as soon as his father heard that William was going to work, he told him and his brother to come and help, and also, Gondolads, the father ordered to issue instructions. William pondered. Limit says that his father probably told other clients about his situation, so there may be more guests. William begins to understand. A reflection on how nice it is to know that even after leaving Barnett's guild, people still need him, but he understands. Now he does not think that the second half of his life will pass in silence, and in creating various things, he looks at the whole company gathered in his house and believes that in the future it will be quite noisy here. Gentle appears and asks what William just did. MC replies that he arrived just in time and asks if he wants to help a little. Yes, of course, Hanel agrees. Limit and Sonal stand by the window. Hanel asks with interest what is happening. William replies that it is a secret for now and laughs. Sonal says that his brother has no skills but loves to craft. He always learned from William. Hanel and William approach the transmission mechanism. Hanel examines the surface of the gear and is amazed. This is the same finish that William recently showed him. Exactly. He recalls and confirms to MC. They take logs and start making things from them. After some time, William is surprised because everything is almost ready. Agnes approaches them and says she is going to the forest for food. William worries if she will be okay. She asks not to worry. Hanel asks Sonal to also go and help Agnes. Sonal agrees. They are asked not to go too deep into the forest. He wants to ask William but does not dare. Regarding William, she wants Limit to go with him too. William clarifies if it will not be dangerous. Agnes assures that she will take care of Limit's safety and Sonal will be with him. And the three of them go to the forest to hunt. Already in the forest, Agnes notices the prey, draws the boastful bow, aims and shoots. Sonal says that Agnes is a wonderful archer. Agnes goes out to collect the loot. Limit looks into the depths of the forest and sees shining lights in the darkness, resembling animal eyes. An experienced boar with huge tusks emerges from the darkness. She screams at the top of her lungs, Agnes. Rada sees the stranger and prepares to attack. He rushes to the edge. At that moment, the woman shouts at Agnes. But Sonal manages to run up. She jumps out to intercept and hits the boar in the air. It bounces back. In the worst case, if she is okay, she is scared and says yes, thank you in a muffled voice. Then Agnes runs up to them. At this time, near the hut at the table, William and Jenel are talking. William is interested and surprised that Zaxxon immediately sent 2 assistants. Even Sonal came, although it seemed that one Jenel would have been enough. Jenel explains that Sonal really wanted to meet William personally. William is surprised by this fact. Again, this will continue. There are special minerals on Jade Island, so many people come there. But William, when he arrived on the island, was not at all interested in the value of those minerals. He made various products from local glowing shells and provided tools and knowledge to improve life. Ganel says that William knows how to win people over. Sonal immediately got in touch and was the first to do so, and Ganel adds that she herself was open and sincere from the very beginning. She understands people well, says Jenel. Sonal has excellent intuition, and William turned out to be a devoted person who truly loves his work. Even his father began to trust William through Sonal, because his daughter confided in him herself, and William, of course, confirms this. Gandalf starts shouting and tries to explain that he wants to help and will definitely manage. The general concludes that because of this thought, he hurried to help William. William hears voices and says that it seems they have returned. They look around and see that the girls are coming back with good trophies. Limit is smiling brightly, Sonal is hastily carrying a large wild boar carcass, and calm Agnes is nearby. Soon at the city market, amid shouts of welcome, come in, and the sounds of dry crackling, Ganel and Agnes trade, surrounded by a crowd of surprised and curious buyers. Meanwhile, at the estate, Limit watches the rotation of the windmill and marvels at how quickly it was built. William, together with Jenel, managed to create a dryer for producing dry cracking. After finishing the work, William thanks Jenel because it would have been difficult alone. Jenel says he learned a lot about gear processing during the work and is also grateful. MC believes that to improve the design, bearings should be placed at the rotation points. Ask Jenel if those were bearings. These are parts with balls for better rotation. William responds. At the market, one of the buyers, an older man, asks why this is dried kraken, and Sonal says it is tasty and immediately starts biting pieces off the kraken's body. The Limit serves the client a dried crack and a paw on a plate and offers him a portion. The man takes the paw, bites it off, and savors it, saying how strange it is that the more you chew, the richer the taste. This tasting attracts many customers who say, "Give me one too," and want to try the new product. William, the hall is full here. A voice sounded behind him. William turned around and saw Markham in front of him. He continues, "It turned out that from dry crunch you can make such a tasty treat." William recalls events of past years and says he saw something similar in a port city. MC says the chef spins the kraken while cooking it to dry it quickly, and if you fry it a bit, it turns out very tasty. William thoughtfully muttered that he would like to pour some soy sauce on it. The mayor asks again if Alfie too, and William says it does not matter. That day they traded actively. Closer to evening, a cool breeze blew from the sea. William walks along the shore with Ruddy on his shoulder and thinks that there is always such a pleasant breeze here. He looks into the distance at the endless water and admires the landscape. He sees a small forest on the horizon. He thinks that beyond those forests, there is probably the capital of the kingdom, and the path straight through the forest will be the shortest. As a result, the dried cracking was completely sold out at this fair. The whole team sighs with relief after such a tense day. Limit turns to William. If such a business brings good income, William replies that he actually does not intend to sell the crack itself. You want to sell the dryer itself. Limit was surprised by this answer. William explains to the whole team that if you dry the catch in this dryer and sell it, you can earn well, but that is just money, and he wants people in the city to start drying fish themselves in this dryer and selling it. MC says that if others find out and a flow of visitors begins, this business will become a local attraction, and they will be able to sell dryers to other cities. And if the plan succeeds and the dryers are sold, the lives of the locals will improve at least a little. Limit, Agnes, and Gannel look at William with admiration after these words. There is a screen here, William. He turns around, sees Sonal, who says that it can be eaten raw, attacks the kraken, and starts chewing raw meat. Everyone looks in surprise at what Sonal is doing. She tries to eat a raw cracker. Limit asks her to stop because otherwise her stomach will hurt. Gennel asks not to put everything in her mouth and asks where she got it from. Sonal replies, maybe Uncle the fisherman gave it to her. Later, the sound of a pit in the field was heard. William watches as Limit, Agnes, Gano, and Sonal work hard, thanks everyone because they managed to dig the field decently. Sonal plants seeds in the beds and thinks about how quickly everything will grow and when it can be eaten. William replies to Sonal that growing food takes a long time. It is not a craft, everything is different here. It is necessary to slowly observe the growth of plants and feed them with fertilizers. Sonal loudly complained to Claire that she was hungry. At that moment, one of the mages shouts, William jests. MC is very pleased. This is Mayor Markham from Hubbard. They enter the house, sit at the table, and start drinking tea. The mayor says he only needed to stop by the neighboring village briefly on business, but in Hubbard, everyone is already talking only about William's product. These dryers and rotators are spinning everywhere. William says he is receiving several additional orders. It seems there is a lot of work, the mayor asks. He says it is hard to get here. It is a real torment. You have to go around the whole forest. Such exists, confirms William. The mayor enjoys his tea and thanks. William spoke with shining eyes and proposed to lay a direct road between Hubbard and the capital. The mayor's eyes widened in surprise. William continues, of course, this will greatly ease the movement of potential clients, but permission must be obtained from Minister Gori. Markham replies that it is a wonderful idea. The city residents will be delighted. On such a positive note, they end the conversation and say goodbye. William calls Ruddy for a moment and asks for help again. And now Ruddy is ready for another journey. The whole team is gathered and comfortably settled in the plane. They are heading to the capital. Having risen high enough, William looks around, sees many houses far to the left and says that this is Hubbard, so the royal capital is on the other side. They approach closer. William says that this was expected. After a few days, the whole company finds themselves in the kingdom's capital. Hanel and Sonal walk the city streets. Sonal is fascinated by what she sees and emotionally surprised by how lively it is here, and Hanel asks her not to lag behind. They approach the city street lamp, and Gennel wonders if these street lamps run on glowing stones. William and Limit follow behind them. Sonal and Gandil are very cheerful and happy. Limit asks why they went to the capital, and William replies that they need to submit a report and ask Minister Gori for something. He sent a letter to the minister in advance and warned that it would happen today. William continues. Moreover, says MC, looking at the friends ahead, Sonal and Gannel, who have never been to the capital, join them, so the trip will help broaden their horizons. In the minister's reception room, they are greeted by a pretty, intelligent-looking girl in glasses with long, neatly styled hair in a fashionable business suit. She happily tells William that it has been a long time since they last met and welcomes Juris. Juris is Minister Gori's assistant. She welcomes all the guests and informs them that the minister will be free soon. After a short time, they enter the minister's office. He greets them sitting in a chair with a monocle on his left eye and apologizes for the delay. William says there is no need to apologize. He is glad to see you again. The minister, looking through the monocle at those standing before him, inquired who they were. Limit bows, greets, and says she is glad to see them. She is from the House of Verg, and the House of Verg is very glad to see the minister in good health. William then introduces himself along with Sonal and Gennel from the Emerald Isle, and they introduce themselves accordingly. The children of the Saxon chieftain, the Minister of Specifications, reports that from the letters he learned that Mr. Fried is having talks with William clients, and William becomes more lively. It seems more will arrive. The minister says this and laughs. William laughs too. So today we talk about the fact that the minister is returning to business. William modestly and nervously extends a folded sheet of paper with his right hand. He says he wants to get permission to build a road. A road, the minister says seriously. William spreads the map on the table in front of the minister and says he has goods popular among the residents of Hubbard and that soon more customers will come to his workshop, so he wants to build a road from Hubbard to his workshop. On the map he shows the road construction plan, comparing the existing and the proposed future route. Then William says he plans to continue the journey to the capital, and the minister is pleased with these plans. William explains to the minister that the only way to deliver magical ore from Hubbard to the kingdom of Melki is through sea. With the appearance of a land trade route, trade will increase. He proposes this. Minister Juris, who is present at the meeting, says that this will also be beneficial for our country. The minister tells William that this plan has already been discussed, but clearing the dense forest requires a lot of time and money. The minister looks at the face of the presenter and continues speaking. They would be grateful if William himself took on this work. The minister tries to find out if the government can rely on him. Meanwhile, Juris stands behind the minister and smiles mysteriously. William waits until the minister finishes his speech and confidently says that he can be relied upon. The minister says he is very grateful for the business proposal and gives permission to carry out the work, adding that he can safely trust William. So the area around his house will become a kind of transit point, Gori says with a smile. The minister suddenly changes his tone, raises the index finger of his right hand, and emotionally suggests to William to found an entire village, while MC is confused by such a proposal. Calming down a bit, Gori says that something like a hotel can be built, magic can be used for crafting, and they can start trading various goods. Yes, stammers William, due to the unexpected proposal. Yuris leans towards the minister and says this. Unfortunately, the meeting time is over. The minister nods, showing understanding. Yuri stands up and apologizes to William. He is busy with matters, and before leaving asks not to take everything to heart. All right, William agrees. The gang returns to their house, and William is delighted. He only asked for permission to build a road, but instead he was offered to build an entire village. William realizes that their scale has somehow grown, but he finds it interesting and recalls a series of events that preceded this. Meanwhile, at Barnett's trading house, Mr. Barnett is angry again, pounds the table with all his might, and asks if Virga's house is really taking clients from Williams and helping him. Laston enters Mr. Barnett's office and immediately tells his father that it seems the orders from the Kingdom of Murkies are also being reduced, and Barnett indignantly says Kingdom of Murkies. The trading guild Laston begins has an agreement with the military bureau of the Kingdom of Murkies regarding priority and port of goods, but recently there have been dissatisfied parties trying to renegotiate this agreement. Mr. Barnett, having heard the information, says that the former Minister of Foreign Affairs Murkies took many bribes, lost his position so easily, and turned out to be useless. Gori dismissed him. Wait a minute, Barnett said thoughtfully. Maybe this Williams is somehow connected with Gary. Laston's expression changes, but he continues. Minister Gori is a key figure among those who advocate for revising the treaty. William is trying to destroy their company. Laston summarizes. Last says that in William's client list, there was the name of Minister Govery, and he begins to check this list. An outraged Mr. Barnett says angrily, "Damn you." Thunderstorms begin everywhere. It has been raining for several days. William and Limit stand by the window and look at the weather. When will this rain end? William said. At that moment, he notices that the first very small sprout has appeared in Soon's field. Insanal, full of curiosity and joy, hurries to the field despite the heavy rain. She runs up and gently, lovingly covers the small, still weak sprout with an umbrella from the bad weather. Later, Limit, together with William, continues to look out the window at this miracle of nature with obvious joy. In the Urad Valley, the rains have not stopped for several days. Rivers are beginning to overflow their banks. Despite all the efforts of the residents to reinforce the dams and protective embankments, under the pressure of the water, they begin to collapse. The destruction of bridges begins. It's time to cut down the forest and lay a road that will connect Hubbard with the capital. William and his people get to work. After a short work session, the hero wipes sweat from his face, thinks that the forest is really too dense, understands why there was no kingdom here before, and considers that maybe it's worth trying something. William takes out his sacred staff ristake, and everyone around is surprised by what is happening. Limit asks if everything is all right, and Agnes jokes and suggests that he might still know the art of witchcraft. William responds quite seriously. In fact, he has a contract with the staff, and he believes he can use it. Already at the entrance to the forest, Williams definitely swings the stick, strikes it on the ground, and says for the wind to clear the path in the forest. The entire friendly company behind him watches with interest what is happening. Immediately a vortex appears in the air. The whirlwind subsides, and everyone, including William, silently watches what is happening, disappointed and speechless from what they have seen. Let his voice urge you to ignore everything and keep working. William thinks he has never used magic before, and making items is not the same as throwing fireballs. It turns out now it's just a toy. He thinks he sees it. You want to learn real magic someday. William again recalls all the events that happened to him up to this day, thinks he has a chance to be reborn in this world, and at that moment, the sound of approaching hoofbeats is heard. A writer appears, a blonde with short hair. He rides up to the main heroine and asks her to admit that he is the skilled craftsman William, and he confirms it himself. The author enthusiastically explains that he is a Norman from the Knight Order of the Kingdom of Melkes. An urgent request has arrived. William is asked to restore the Oredian Bridge. The Norman explains in detail that after heavy rains the river overflowed its banks. The Oredian Bridge, which crosses it, is partially destroyed and cannot be crossed. Norman is invited into the house to talk. They sit at the table and start drinking tea. The Norman explains in detail that this bridge is an important crossing on the highway connecting the capital with the neighboring state. There are bypass roads, of course, but one has to make a big detour through the mountains. The road is narrow, and for horse-drawn carts it is a real challenge. William listens and remembers that the road is really terrible. The Norman continues to share information. The request to repair the Oredian Bridge came personally from Minister Govary. He asks William to help the kingdom. MC says that he understands everything and immediately leaves. Ruddy is ready to help and, as always, ready to set off. William says he is going, and Ganel and Sonner are going with him. He is ready to do everything necessary on site. Genel suggests taking some materials with them. Sonal is very happy about the opportunity for a new journey. Limit angrily tells her that she will not be idling on site, but will have to work seriously, and there is no reason for entertainment. After saying goodbye to everyone, the three set off on the road. Limit sadly sees them off and watches as Ruddy flies away. Agnes approaches and says, "Madam, this time you cannot help with anything." Agnes says that they can hardly help the victims now. She suggests taking care of the house together while William is absent. Limit is still looking at the sky and sees Ruddy's silhouette disappear in the distance. William and his company arrive in the Uridian Valley. They are met by Juris, who says she was waiting for them and came to inspect the damaged places instead of Minister Gora. William greets her. Sonal is very happy that Juris welcomes them. Juris says the matter is serious. Everyone looks as the river destroyed entire spans of the bridge. She adds that not only the bridge was damaged, but also the neighboring village, and a rescue team is expected to arrive soon from the capital. He heard a voice behind him, turned around, and saw William. Before him stood a gray-bearded elderly man who said they had not seen each other for a long time. Mr. Bird recognized William in him. Mr. Bird began to tell. Minister Gary said he asked William to restore this bridge and find additional help. William gathered craftsmen and immediately went to the site. After listening to Mr. Bird, William says it will be much easier with you. William addresses Henel and Sonal and explains that Mr. Bird is a carpenter, the leader of a group of very skilled craftsmen whom he has long been indebted to, and Mr. Bird asks to explain how they can help because they are ready to do anything. William approaches the Bird Brigade and greets them. They are all happy to see each other. One of the workers tells William that there were rumors that he left the guild, and he was already upset because he thought they would no longer be able to work together. Another says he is glad they are on the same team again. The third says that working with him is always full of surprises, and today is a real celebration. The fourth says he can't wait to start. Examining the consequences of the destruction, Bird says they have cleaned up almost all the debris, chips, and trash. They are really very fast guys. William is surprised. The leader, one of the workers near the bridge support, calls Mr. Bird. He calls you to come and see what he has discovered. William and the Bird ask what happened and run to him. Run to the support. Mr. Bird is surprised. He sees traces of deliberate damage, broken stones near the base of the support, and says it looks like someone tried to break the bridge support. William clarifies what he meant exactly, and Bird says it was a deliberate attempt to destroy the bridge. Yuris listens to the incident and says that this bridge is an important trade route between the country and the neighbor, so these villains are against trade with neighboring states, and this is the work of opponents of the treaty revision. She continues. William is nearby and thinks about what kind of agreement this is and who his opponents are because he does not fully understand this information. Yuris explains that actually Minister Gori is now trying to make changes to one agreement. She explains in detail the agreement concluded by the former foreign minister of the Kingdom of Merkes, which contains a secret clause that their country is obliged to buy military and other goods only from one company. Because of this contract, the Kingdom of Merkes is limited in trade with other companies and countries. William hesitantly asks if it is about Barnett's guild. It was Barnett, Juris says awkwardly. William remembers Mr. Barnett's character and says he always knew it. He is fully capable of that. To keep sucking all the money from their kingdom, he will go to any lengths. Juris says that is impossible. Are they really building this bridge? She has no proof, but the probability is high. Bird turns to William and says that the bridge restoration must start immediately, and William replies yes, of course. The crafting skill includes upgrades, that is, improving the parameters of created items, repair, that is, restoring broken things, and creation, that is, making items from materials. William decides to use repair. However, he understands the scale of the destruction and that repairing this bridge is a big deal. The mana consumption will be huge and it will take a lot of time. They begin restoration work together. Soon, everyone involved in the restoration sees the quality of the work done and is completely satisfied. William reports that the repair of the Eurydian Bridge is complete, and to avoid new problems, tomorrow they need to go upstream and build a dam against the mudflow, but the builders who worked on the repair do not understand what it is. The next day, everyone moves upstream. The main character explains that a mud dam is a structure that holds back logs and large stones washed down by rain. This is necessary to avoid repeated floods along the way. Jura says they will soon reach the sources. On the road, Sonal and Hanel smell a strange odor in the air. Sonal shouted to William that it seems someone is chasing them. The MC asks again what that means. They continue walking, and Ganon says that they seem to be watched from afar. They have already escaped. Maybe these are the ones trying to destroy the bridge, says Yura. At this time, Bird, who is walking a bit ahead, calls William to see what is happening. MC approaches the river closer, sees a destroyed structure made of logs and torn ropes, and assumes that there was previously a simple retaining wall here. Liam says in surprise that he never imagined that such technologies were passed down from generation to generation in these parts. He bends down and picks up the rope. William examines the rope and finds traces of a clean cut on it. He believes that someone deliberately destroyed the retaining wall, causing the dam to break through. Juris listens to all of William's conclusions and says that it is terrible. MC thinks that the new structure needs to be reinforced so that such a thing does not happen again to the village at the foot of the mountain. He asks everyone not to waste time and to get to work. Ask everyone to collect stones and wood from the materials. At this time, footsteps are heard on the hill, and a voice is heard from above. Stop. It is a crowd of men of different ages in various clothing, shouting at William and his people. Were they on their own territory? Juris thinks they are bandits. William asks them if they were the ones conducting surveillance. A bandit in a hood claims that William and his company invaded their territory, and a bandit with a mohawk asks if the bridge collapse was their fault. In response to the question about surveillance, the one in the hood replies that he does not understand what we are talking about. All the robbers speak in unison. In any case, there is no point in acting arrogantly on their territory. If you value your life, they demand to give up everything you have. With these words, they hurry to beat William and his comrades. At that moment, Sonal suddenly jumps up and strikes the first robber, who falls, and the other robbers are shocked by this turn of events. Mr. Bird calls his masters forward into the fight. Hand-to-hand combat begins. Sonal and Ganel actively rushed into the fight. William looks at the builders from the beer team and considers them very strong and powerful. He is surprised at how skilled they are. The hand-to-hand fight continues. One of the bandits, bald, grabs the lawyer by the neck and presses a knife to her throat. She tries to call William for help. The bandit demands that she behave quietly and decently. Lawyer William K. was taken hostage. He shouts into the void but does not know what to do. Sonar and Gano are already far away, fighting their opponents. Looking back, he sees that the entire battlefield is engaged in fighting, so everyone else is busy too. William understands that he cannot even apply his combat skills. He is thinking about what to do. At that moment, a noise is heard. A girl with a spear appears on the battlefield and joins the fight. She demands that the robber immediately release Yuris and calls him a miserable scoundrel. William watches this with interest and recognizes the girl. The bandit notices the girl fighter, asks what she wants, and rushes into battle with her. The girl manages to avoid the attack and takes the bandit out of the fight by stabbing a spear into his back, causing him to fall face down. Sonal and Hanel see the fight and are pleased with the result, while Bird and the brigade are also concerned. The girl runs up to Juris and asks if everything is all right, and Juris thanks her for freeing her. William runs to them and loudly states the main idea. Yuris asks in surprise how the stranger knows William. A beautiful brunette comes to her senses after the fight, apologizes, and calls herself Kino Takebana from Moonlight. One of the masters tries to recall Moonlight, and another adds that it is the strongest group of adventurers everyone talks about. In response, Akino confirms that she is the daughter of their leader Ari Takebana. So that's it, no wonder where such strength comes from, said the bird, just a cute Sonal. Surprised, William asked how she ended up here. Something is wrong with Snowpeak, he means the spear. Akino looks at the saber, spins it in her hands, and says that it is still sharp. She says she learned from her mother that William had problems, so she hurried to help him. William heard that the Averg family is taking his clients, and now doubts whether they reached the Moonlight Group. She knows that when she set out on the road, she first went to his new house. There she met Verga's daughter and asked her about everything, after which she went straight to the Oridian Bridge. When she finally found them, she noticed that some bandits were up to no good, so she started to lie in ambush and wait for the right moment. So William understood the situation. The smell came from her, adds Genel, who is standing nearby. Akino is upset and very angry because of these words. She tries to explain that she ran as fast as she could and therefore was sweating. William Combs is depressed and says that is not true. Sonal just has a good nose, that's all. In the end, everything worked out well. Sonal joins the conversation. Point Bird asks what to do with them and points to the tied-up bandits, lying down demanding to be untied immediately. Yuri's appears anxious and with a flushed face and believes that first, in a friendly atmosphere, she will accompany them to the capital and then ask them a few questions. They are all on the riverbank. The water splashes and William thinks. He wants to start building the dam as soon as possible, but first he needs to deal with their guests. The Oridian Bridge has been repaired, so it is better to continue work tomorrow. William suddenly sees the main speaker. She leans over the tied-up robber she defeated, tries to wake him up, and demands that he get up. The bandit comes to his senses and does not understand where he is. He remembers that he was just walking in a field of flowers with his grandmother. Akino smiles, looking at the bandit. In her opinion, she hit him quite easily. She looks him in the eyes and says that he needs to stop this matter before it is too late. William looks at what is happening and recalls the events of previous days. The thief who stole equipment from Moonlight was caught, and William witnessed how Iri Takebana began to beat him brutally. He begged for mercy, but Iri did not stop. Akino decisively intervened and demanded that her mother stop torturing her, and Iri replied that this scoundrel was a thief. He stole the equipment and would not get away with it so easily, so Akino tried to object and justify the thief by naming possible good reasons he might have had. Then Iri explained that for adventurers' equipment is a matter of life and death, and stealing it is the same as trying to kill them, but Akino disagreed. William also wanted to intervene, but he was hindered by the night adventures. They said it was better not to approach now. The thief apologized, but Iri Takebana did not stop stuffing his mouth, beating him with a whip and trying to strangle him. Then Keynote rushed to the thief and asked if he was okay. Iri tried to stop Keynote. The thief continues to ask for forgiveness. He cries and says that his son recently went blind. He heard that there is a famous healer in the capital, but he has no money for treatment. And his wife died from illness, and the son had no one left but him. He begs for mercy, kneels down, and bows his head to the ground. Akino sees all this and thinks. Iri does not believe the words and demands to stop talking nonsense. She is very angry. Then Kino approaches the cart with the belongings, takes out some item, and goes to the thief with it. Akino returns and says, "Take this, one of my collectible weapons. It has no name, but it can fetch a lot of money." The leader of Moonlight tries to stop her, but Akino addresses the leader and says that these are her personal things, which she bought for a hobby, and this will not affect the combat capability of their group, after which she hands the weapon to the thief. Mary asks if Akino really believes this man, and Akino replies that her heart says he is not lying. Iri heard those words, thought a little, and left. A few days passed, and William and Akino met alone. William asked if Ari apologized for that incident. Akino asked again if it was about the mother. MC said that Iri quickly received a letter of thanks after the incident. The message said that the son of that bandit received treatment and restored his sight. Akino learns about this for the first time and is very happy. William gives you a new weapon that he made himself. Akino picks it up, looks at it with admiration, and says how beautiful it is, Snowpeak. William adds that it was a personal request from Lady Iri, and Akino is very surprised. The main character says that sometime later, after that event, Arya invited him to talk. At that meeting, she asked him to create a worthy weapon for the next leader of their party, and looking him in the eyes, said that she has hopes for him and that the task would not be easy. Arya said that she wants Kainat to take her business under the moonlight. She was confident that Kainat would become even stronger. She has a special kindness and the ability to understand people. The moonlight beside her becomes even brighter. Akino listens carefully to everything William says and cannot believe it. She sincerely thanks for the received weapon and promises to take care of it. We return to the Euridian Valley. The events take place near the restored bridge. William gathered all the builders involved in its restoration. He decided to show them something. Aquino, anticipating the events, asked what he meant. William replied that you will see now, and ordered Sonal to come. On the shore, William made a small model of the riverbed with transverse barriers. Sonal begins pouring buckets of water. The water quickly flows down and carries away stones, branches, and debris, and William explains that he created this model to show how the debris barrier works, which holds back stones and trees, but lets water and gravel through the gaps. Everyone present watches with interest how this structure works, and William explains how this dam fulfills its long-term purpose. Genel accidentally notices something in the distance and calls William to look. Everyone turns in the direction he pointed and watches as large, orderly columns of people approach them. Norman appears at the head of the column. He announces that he has arrived with reinforcements from the capital. William gives the order to start rebuilding the village. This time in Barnett's guild. The guild workers sit at the table playing cards. One of them, the youngest blonde, says she is bored. Yes, orders have decreased, says the experienced, bearded brunette, William's former partner. Ask the blonde if everything will be all right. Mr. Barnett looks out the window of his office with a very dissatisfied expression. At the same time, he crumples an important document in his hand. The front door creaks, and finally he enters the office. He addresses his father. Mr. Barnett walks around his desk and sits in a chair, then begins to say that they say the Oridian Bridge has been restored, and asks if that is not too fast. Mr. Barnett, sitting in the armchair, says it seems Minister Gower hired that scoundrel. William maybe, the latter he suggests. Barnett, with his head lowered, explains that the bridge has been restored. Now trade with other countries is possible, and the Kingdom of Merkais will surely break its secret treaty. Laston spreads his arms wide and asks what his father should do. He asks Laston not to rush and adds that he needs to think carefully. Mr. Barnett, after a short pause, brightens up and with a smile says, let the Kingdom of Donal and the Kingdom of Merkais start a war. The last one here, and I can't understand what this is for. Barnett says that the war creates a great need for weapons, and that's true, but who makes weapons for Donald? The last one, and thank you. Barnett smiles and says that their company manufactures weapons. Last smiles and says that father is as inventive as always, and Barnett coughs in response and says that Last has a lot of work ahead. And in the Yurd Valley, life actively continues. After the bridge was restored, a dam was built against the backflow. Norman thanks William for the work done. He says that the Arden Bridge and the dam upstream are now completed, and Minister Gary will surely be pleased with the quick restoration. They look from above at the abandoned fields and forests. William says that it remains to return people to their usual life, but it seems that will take a lot of time. Norman replies that the rest will be their business. Behind William, here you are, William. He turns around, and in front of him stands Mr. Bird with a group of men. Bird introduces them to William. One of them, a short-haired blonde with an open face, greets William and introduces himself as Creed, a resident of this village. He thanks him for the help with the repairs. He says that Mr. Bird said that William is building the village. William was embarrassed by such an attitude. Gathering his thoughts, he began to explain that halfway between the capital and Hubbard there is not even a village, only his farmstead. Local men continue. They have a request. They ask with hope in their eyes if William will allow them to settle in his village. Size things. Due to heavy rain, their fields were washed away, livestock lost, and it is unknown when they can work in the field again. If they could, they would stay in their village, but they need something to eat. They learned that Mr. William is founding a village and thought their experience could be useful in the new place. William was glad to hear this and said that of course he would be very happy to have them. He recently started gardening and is still a novice, so their help will be very useful. All residents gladly accept this decision of the city council. William says that as soon as he returns, he will immediately start building houses for them. From behind, he hears a question if they forgot and a request for someone to answer. He turned around, a bird stands before him and squints. It says that William has a cool device, but being alone is hard, and that's true. Before going to rest, the bird is ready to help build the new village. Voices are heard. The bird turns, sees master builders approaching, and says that they also want to work with William. First aid from William. MC addresses them and expresses immense gratitude for everything. Bird promises the builders that they will not be bored. They all stand together and look at the results of their work in the Euridian Valley, with new events awaiting them ahead. William notices that new residents have appeared in his new village, and he is very happy about it. William's hut sits alone at the table, with a cup of fresh tea in front of her, but she does not want to eat it all and wants to cry from boredom. Agnes reassures her that William will return soon. She looks out the window and calls out joyfully, "They have returned. Limit, let's go meet them." Limit happily jumps out of the hut and says that he is glad to see you again. William announced that he has returned, and pointing to the people nearby, suggested getting acquainted with the new residents of the village. Limit is shocked. This is a big surprise for her. Akino approaches first and says that she is glad to meet and start working together from today, and Limit, surprised, says that you are from Moonlight. But he quickly comes to his senses and says that he is glad to see her. Akino greets her in response. William shows the new tenants their future home, points with his hand and says that the royal capital is located in the distance, and in another direction points to something else. The construction of new houses in the village is not in full swing. Akino and Agnes are diligently preparing timber for construction. The maids, joking and having fun, are busy washing dirty clothes and linen. Gentle notices that William is standing at the construction site and is thoughtful, approaches the main character, and asks what happened to William. He is deeply thoughtful and asks if Ganel remembers that situation with the bandits, mentally replaying the whole story about the attack and how they had to save Judah, and William adds that, of course, he actually does not know how to use a sword or magic, but thought that at least some weapon for self-defense would not hurt. Since it happened this way, he decided to use this magical ore and do something. At the same time, William showed a piece of ore in his hand, resembling a spearhead, said that he got this ore from one place and it is special, able to absorb magic. Ganel expressed admiration upon seeing this. MC said that he decided to make a knife and asked to show it. He begins to magically spin the piece of magic, and in a moment it turns into a sharp knife. Anna watches all the magical transformations with great surprise, and William holds the finished knife in his hands and says that if the enemy does not have magic, the weapon loses its special power, but still remains deadly. A rumble sounds. William and Gandalf stop talking. Limit falls backward with the buckets in which she was carrying water. William runs to her and shouts if she is okay. Getting up, she explains that she was carrying water to water the garden but stumbled. William and Agnes help her get up and calm her down. William examines the path along which water flowed. He understands that the water is far away and the road is bad. Gano runs up and starts a conversation, saying that they are going to bring in livestock. The farm will need much more water, and William agrees. After a short reflection, he decides that it is time to bring water to the village and announces this to everyone. But everyone is curious about how to do it. MC says that they will build a water wheel. Bird, who is here, joins the conversation. The water wheel is a great idea. Gantel loudly says, "Let's get straight to crafting." William says dreamily, they have enough wood but lack metal parts to make it. So he says they need to go to the capital for shopping. Akino immediately says that he will join William, and MC is very surprised by this unexpected decision. Limit is shocked and screams hysterically that he will go. Ruddy's abilities and head to the capital. Now in the kingdom's capital, they walk the city's trading streets. First, they enter a metal goods store. Then they go to a bookstore where William buys technical literature to study the construction of water wheels and other mechanisms. After that, they make other purchases at the city market. Evening is approaching. William is surprised. Shopping took much more time than he planned, but they bought many things and seedlings for the garden. Limit joins the conversation. When they leave the market, William says he does not want to go home at night, and Ruddy finds it hard to fly at night. He thinks they should rent a room in a hotel and spend the night in the city. The girls do not mind. They go to the nearest hotel. Upon arriving at the hotel, William approaches the administrator and asks if there are any free rooms. He says that there is a separate room for the lady, but he will take a shared one. The administrator, a respectable gentleman with a thick beard, nods understandingly. After all, it cannot be otherwise, because not being all together imposes restrictions. "Mr. William," a voice was heard behind me. William turns around and sees a smiling lawyer in front of him. He asks what she is doing here. She replies that the guard reported their arrival as soon as he saw them at the entrance to the capital. She immediately followed them after receiving the information to talk about the incident on the Auridian Bridge. Juris says, looking at the floor. William replies that he understands. MC turns back to Limit and Akino, offers them to settle in and rest a little, because he needs to leave on business. Yes, they reply, because they agreed. William and Juris meanwhile go to the bar. They sit at a table, and Juris holds a glass of beer in front of him. She starts a conversation. They haven't drunk together for a long time. "You are speaking correctly," agrees William. "But he was counting on a regular dinner and a sip of beer," says MC. By the way, the jurors recall the robbers of that day. Juris begins to tell that, as a result of the interrogation, it turned out that the mercenaries received orders from the familiar Raven. Familiar, said William meaningfully. They have a familiar, he continues, so she is a witch, she is their leader. It is still unknown, replies Juris. The secret pact between the kingdom and the trade guild says that Juris was useful not only to Barnet. This affected not only their interests, but also the interests of everyone around. Yura adds that probably many people were hostile to the minister, who wanted to revise the agreement. William continues, if Barnet is involved, he will not limit himself to just showing up. Juris says that soon there will be a conference to review the trade treaty. Security has been tightened in the capital, but she is worried about possible sabotage from opponents of the treaty. She continues that the minister is against such measures to strengthen security. He wants to deepen cooperation with various countries and regions to enrich the country, and she wants to help him. Juris begins to panic and anxiously asks William if he understands what is going on. So I understand. He smiles in response, but she does not calm down. MC understands that the lawyer has started to show a harmful addiction. He does not want to drink, ask the rather tipsy lawyer. William knows that when she gets drunk, she starts annoying everyone. He nods and says, yes, he drinks. Jurasab says she just wants everyone to be happy. She hates those who try to take all the wealth only for themselves. They continue sitting in the bar. The lawyer demands that he keep drinking. He pretends to agree, and William thinks this is pressure through alcohol. The protagonist got very drunk because he drank so much alcohol. In the morning, feeling very bad and with a headache, William barely crawls to the hotel, and on the way remembers that the lawyer made him stay with her until morning. And in the morning, as if nothing happened, she hurried to work, saying she had to prepare for a meeting. It seemed incredible to him that after such a night she could go to work. Good morning, William. So Limit and Aquino already greeted him at the hotel. Limit added that he looked as if he had just been resurrected. Just hearing these words, William was able to come to his senses, thus ended their shopping trip to the capital. They all returned to the village together on Ruddy. Wasting no time, they begin construction. William begins to make a water wheel, a large wooden structure with blades inside and buckets outside that scoop water. William explains that the first step is to build a dam in front of the water wheel to create a height difference and increase the water pressure. Buckets attached to the wheel picked up water and poured it into a trough, and William continues to explain. The water will flow through the trough and collect in the receiving well. Genel is already near the trough. He is interested in the moment when this will happen. You can hear the water flowing through the trough, and Hanel happily says that now they have water for the livestock. The water continues to move and now fills the channel built by the residents. William is very pleased. Now the fields can be irrigated to their heart's content. The main character thanks Mr. Bird for help in building the dam and channel and says that thanks to him everything succeeded. Bird modestly replies that there is no need to thank him. Now the fields and livestock will be fine. The bird happily continues to sing. Yes, says William contentedly. Everyone around him is also very happy. Here is some strange sound. Ganel says he heard something. William also confirms it. Someone says let's go, and everyone runs toward the noise. Limit asks embarrassedly what happened. The main speech also calls for restrictions. On a steep, almost vertical bank, clinging to a branch with all her strength, hangs an unfamiliar long-haired girl. She was asking someone for help. William runs out to the shore, first runs to the cliff and tries to find out if the girl is okay, says he will help now, and orders Gandalf to pull the vine he is watching. Gantel quickly completes the task. William says that is excellent. He ties himself to the free end of the liana and, like a professional climber, begins to descend to the girl, and everyone else helps him and pulls the liana. Reaching the girl, William grabs her, and they are pulled onto the shore. The frightened girl sits on her knees and explains that she slipped and fell from the shore. She is very grateful for the help. Aquino wonders what she is doing in such a place. The girl asked them for help. Unknown people broke into their village. William's process news about the attack on the village. They ask the girl if the village was attacked. William wonders why this happened. The girl introduces herself. Her name is Slay. She is from the village of Taste and says that a witch's family lives on the outskirts of their village. William thinks about it. Slay continues, saying that one day the girl's mother, a hereditary witch, reported that she had run out of ingredients for the potion and needed to go out and find more. She left her daughter under the care of the village elder and his wife and went away. This was not the first time. But yesterday, something unexpected happened. Several men armed with axes and cold weapons suddenly broke into the elder's house and kidnapped the child. At the same time, the entire village was surrounded by bandits. Slay says she waited for the right moment and managed to escape. She is kneeling before William and his companions and says she is heading to the capital to call for help. She dreams of getting there as soon as possible and contacting the knights. She continues to worry. After hearing the information, Bird says they will reach the capital in a few more days, and the knights in Kinoa Pines will come even later. William notes that a conference is currently taking place in the capital. All forces are focused on security, so it is unknown how many night shifts will be assigned. Announcement of Gani. Did those who attacked the village deliberately choose such a vulnerable moment? William believes a witch is also involved here and recalls a recent conversation with Juris. He believed that it was clear that there are people who wanted to prevent the review of the contracts, and thoughts about Mr. Barnett surfaced again. William asks Slay to help him get to the village. She understands why. At her embarrassed look, the main character says that he will save her village. William calls Keynote, Sonal, and Ganal and says that they will help together. He addresses the bird and asks if it can contact the order. Yes, of course, the bird replies. He expresses his desire to go with the bird to the capital. The bird is surprised by this desire. William tries to stop her, but Limit explains that on her horse they will reach the capital faster. William does not object. At this moment, Agnes adds. In her opinion, Lady Limit's connections in the Night Order will be useful, and she has no doubt about it. Bird confirms that the daughter of the Averg family undoubtedly has high authority. William agrees with the arguments. He turns to Limit and says that he believes and trusts her. Limit replies that she is glad to help. Agnes, Limit, and Bird immediately set off to the capital on ladies' horses. William, Aquino, Ganal, and Sonal, accompanied by Slay and with Ruddy's help, headed towards the village of Taste. In a short time, they found themselves on the outskirts of the village, and from a small forest, William and his companions surveyed the surroundings. The main character hands Ruddy into Slay's hands and asks him not to hesitate to run away if necessary. Slay agrees. The group goes to the residential houses. When they approach the village fence, Gantel notices guards at the entrance. Aquino goes first and suggests moving forward to William. Stop, sir. He believes they do not know how many bandits are there. Smiling, he suggests making a bandana out of his gloves. Sonal asks if that will be useful, and MC says he has a great idea and smiles. He says it will be called Operation Reunion and looks with tears of joy. The whole company wearily waits to see what will happen next. The guard at the gate, a young blonde, is clearly bored and even yawns because he wants to sleep. William and Sonal approach him, disguised as locals. William says, "Here is the village of Taste." The guard reluctantly turns to them when he hears their voices. "Here we are, brother," says Sonalix. "Yes, it seems," agrees William. All the others watch what is happening from their hiding places. Aquino, who is watching closely, says she does not like this idea, and Genel, who is nearby, asks if the bandana was invented to hide Sonal's ears. The guard approaches William and Sonal, asks if they are locals, announces that the village is closed, and demands that they leave, while William asks him to wait. He begins to explain that they heard rumors that their missing mother lives in this village. He and his sister traveled for a long time to finally get here. Sonal sadly asks if they will see Mom. William cheerfully replies that of course they will see her. William sadly says that their mother left them in a church shelter when they were very young, and the guard, joining the conversation, replies that she probably had her reasons. Sonal begins to cry. The guard got nervous, and the story affected him so much that he even cried. William and Sonal did not expect such a reaction. The guard cries and says that William always had to protect his younger sister, and they survived as best they could, like two abandoned kittens, and the guard wipes his tears with his sleeve, moved. He says that he understands them and will help find their mother. William and Sonal simultaneously ask if it is true. The guard wipes his eyes and tells them that he also grew up in an orphanage. He understands their feelings better than anyone. He opens the gate to let William and Sonal in. Hanel, watching from the side, said in surprise that it worked. The movie advertisement had an effect. Meanwhile, the guard leads William and Sonal to a separate, abandoned house. On the way, he says that if it becomes known that he let a stranger into the village, everyone will be in trouble. When they enter the house, the guard says the house is empty, and from here they can observe what is happening around, and William and Sonal thank him for his help. The guard approaches the window, opens it slightly, and says that it is lunchtime now and everyone goes outside, so he suggests looking to see if the person they are looking for is in the crowd. On the street, a command to line up sounds, announcing that food is being distributed. William looks through the window at the neighboring house and assumes that the peasants are being held there. The guard asks if he sees anyone familiar. William replies that he cannot say for sure. The guard mocks him and says that he supposedly completely lost his memory and does not remember relatives, but adds sympathetically that William was only a child and only has childhood memories left. The guard continues and says that life, as he sees it, is really hard and he understands that, and at that moment Sonal shouted, asking where the witch is. The guard becomes suspicious and asks again, are they interested in the witch? William tries to get rid of doubts. He begins to tell them that their mother said there is a witch living in the village, apologizes for their behavior, and adds that his sister always dreamed of seeing the witch, spreading his arms wide to sound more convincing. The guard says that the witch's daughter is kept in a distant hut. Sonal smirks at these words. She tries to push her head into the frame of the half-open window to get a better look at the hut, but the bandana catches on the frame and slips off her head. The guard sees animal ears on Sonal's head. He is surprised by this. He says they are definitely not brother and sister. Besides, she has a tail. Sonal grabs her by the head. William is tense. He grabs the guard from behind with his hands, presses his palm over the guard's mouth, and orders him not to scream. William holds the guard and calmly tells him to listen carefully if he continues to act like that. Then there will be orphans in the world, forced to live in shelters. The guard does not understand what is happening. He asks if his problems are because he is an orphan. He begins to explain that he was lured by a gang of hooligans who talked about a village where evil lives and where money can be easily earned. He only says that those who are against the changes to the contract are definitely involved in the attack. Changes to what? The guard asks again. MC explains that trade in their country is now distorted by a certain contract, so wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few. William adds that because of this, a review of the agreement is being prepared in the capital, and if all goes well, trade will become freer and many citizens will be able to benefit from it. But if this agreement is not changed, and only the chosen ones continue to live as before, inequality will grow and crime too, says William. Defenseless children suffer the most from this, and William asks the guard if he knows this pain well. The guard reflects on these words. He begins to recall his past life and remembers how he wandered and starved. After a minute of thought, the guard says that it is hard for him to understand what is happening now, but he definitely does not want anyone to repeat his fate. He is sure of this. Meanwhile, Aquino and Ganel continue to observe from cover. Aquino asks if William is okay. Ganel replies that so far there have been no sounds. At that moment, Ganel shouted that William was coming. Aquino and Ganel watch, explain what is happening with confusion. William approaches them and asks if they were worried about them. Aquino asks who else they brought along with Sonal. A tall young guard introduces himself. His name is Kenneth, and he is glad to meet them. He says that he talked with William and decided to switch to the other side. Aquino was surprised by his decision to switch sides. William interrupts the conversation and says he will explain all the circumstances of the decision later, but now they need information about the village plan, and Kenneth agrees. He begins to draw the village plan on the ground with a stick. Everyone watches him attentively. Kenneth finishes drawing and shows them where the places of interest are located, primarily the elder's house and the places where the villagers gather. Kenneth points to a house a little beyond the village where the witch's child is hidden. William says that everything is clear, and first they need to save the witch's child and then free the mayor's house. They head towards the lonely house, which is guarded by two men. Kenneth is the first to approach the entrance and greets the guards. They respond to him and ask why he is here if he is supposed to be on duty. Ganel and Sonal appear behind Kenneth. He tells them that he found several more children in the village. At that moment, Ganel and Sonal attack the guards and engage in hand-to-hand combat, hitting them with their hands and feet. The girl is sitting on the floor, tied to a post. Sounds of blows and fighting are heard behind the door. She does not understand what is happening. The door suddenly opens, and William runs in, asks if she is okay, and says he came to help. The girl looks frightened. Ganel, who also runs into the room, says with relief that they finally found her. The main character says his name is William. They are from a neighboring village and came to help as soon as they heard about the attack. The girl tries to explain something, but is too upset. William asked what happened. She says that this is her staff, picks it up from the floor, and explains that it is a magical staff given to her by her mother. When she was captured, the staff was broken. William asks her must give him the staff. She hesitantly extends it and asks what they will do with it. William asks Ganel to find a branch. Ganel says he will find one and runs away. In a moment, Gano returns with a twig and laughing loudly, says that William will now show his magic. William makes a new handle for the staff from a branch, attaches it to the main part, and secures it firmly. As a result, the staff was repaired and handed over to the girl. She eagerly takes the restored staff in her hands. Kenneth, standing behind the host, doubts whether William can really craft. The girl hears the question and asks it. She says that this is the same William, nicknamed Jack of all trades, and he asks in surprise how she found out about him, while Genel and Sonal, standing nearby, are also surprised. The girl says that her name is Mamiya, and her mother is the witch Marjorie. William says to Lady Marjorie in surprise that Sonal has no idea who is being talked about. The girl thanks him for fixing her staff and happily says that now she can go help her mother. William asked what kind of help she was talking about. Mamiya explained that she heard it from two guards who were lying unconscious after a hand-to-hand fight. She says that when the guards were talking among themselves, one asked if they had caught the girl's mother, and the other replied that it was hard to believe they managed to catch that witch because she was like a monster. And she wonders where her mother might be, but Mamiya knows nothing. Then William asked Kenneth if he knew anything, and Kenneth replied that such information is not given to a person of his low rank. He suggests asking those who were in the mayor's house. William says they need to go and free the local residents. At this time, near the capital's watchtower, a group of armed men gathers. A cruel, tall, blond man loudly addresses the crowd and asks if everyone has weapons. The crowd raises their hands and roars in unison that everyone has swords, daggers, axes, and other weapons. They also brought a specially made cage on a cart, in which the witch Marjorie is kept. She is depressed, and all her thoughts are about her daughter Mamiya. The events shift to the kingdom of Malkes. Norman arrives at the kingdom's capital. He greets the guards and asks if there is any news. The guard greets him in response. He says that meetings are currently taking place in the city to review the terms of the agreement, and they are keeping watch due to concerns about opposition actions. The sound of horse hooves is heard. Norman turns around and cannot believe his eyes. A pair of horses runs up to them, and one of the riders loudly says that she is Limit from the Avert family. She has urgent information that needs to be communicated. Meanwhile, in the village of Taste, events continue. William and his companions set out to free the locals from captivity. Kenneth leads everyone to one of the abandoned houses and suggests hiding there for now. On the way, Ganel asks William how he knows Mamiya's mother, and William asks if she means Mrs. Marjorie. MC says that she is an incredible sorceress and very skilled at crafting magical tools, and he adds that when he worked at Barnett Trading Company, she used to buy materials for their production for him. Mamiya asks why the bandits kidnapped her mother. William replies that he thought about it from the very beginning, because if Marjorie is not an ordinary person, then someone might be trying to take revenge on her. Genel addresses Mamiya and asks her not to worry. He promises to kill all the villains. Akino smiles and says that everyone is with her and everything will be fine. Mamiya feels better and thanks everyone for their support. William looks at his entire company with satisfaction. MC stops everyone and says that first they need to free the residents and then gather information for further actions. According to Kenneth's information, the residents are held in two houses. William suggests splitting into two groups. One of the groups is already approaching the first suspicious house where the residents are. The guards at the entrance are tired and sleepy. Genel, Sonal, and Akino notice the moment and attack them. With quick and quiet movements, they disarmed two guards. William and Kenneth were watching the security of the second house from its hiding place. The main character says he trusts Kenneth to make the first move. Kenneth replies that he understands. He comes out of the house and calls the guards of the second building, waving his hand at them. The guards respond and see that it is Kenneth. One of them says that Kenneth is probably skipping guard duty as usual. Kenneth suggests entering the house because he heard there are hot and interesting magazines there. The guards look at each other, approach Kenneth, and enter the house. It is dark inside the house, and they do not know where to go to find these magazines. At that moment, they discover that they have been tied up from head to toe. Mamiya uses capture magic. Kenneth says, "Continue, Mamiya." William says that now it's his turn to show his skills. He says that for this, he uses old metal and old wood. In a short time, he builds a cage and puts the captured bandits inside. William, Kenneth, and Mamiya stand in the house completely satisfied. MC says that if things go like this, they will finish by morning. At that moment, Sonal enters the house. By the door, she says that they have all been captured. All the bandits are tied up and guarded by Genel and Akino. William is impressed by their agility and speed. After that, the neutralized bandits are placed in a cage built by William. Kenneth looks at the whole team and says with satisfaction that they are all very strong and admires them. As a result of these events, all the residents are now free. Overwhelmed with joy, they begin to hug each other. One of them addresses Mamiya and thanks her for the rescue, but she says there is no need to thank her, and the people who came to help her, according to William, came because Slay asked them to help. The man fell to his knees before William and asked how he could repay him. William replied that the best thanks for him is for all the residents to be alive and healthy. He asked to return if he finds out where Marjorie is. The man replied that, unfortunately, he does not know. Aquino says that they will have to interrogate the bandits, but the bandits say they know nothing. They were going to attack the village and steal valuable property. William asks whose orders these were. The bandit replies that the orders were given by some man. They do not know who exactly. This man was given orders by someone else, so he does not know who the leader of the entire gang is. William thinks and realizes that there are many people in the chain of command, and doubts that it is necessary to interrogate all the bandits to find out the truth. At that moment, a crow appears in the sky. It lands on Mia's hand. William was surprised by the appearance of the crow. Mamiya says that this is her mother's familiar. The main character is surprised by this connection to Marjorie. Mamiya asks the raven to tell her where her mother is. She is told that it is an old castle in the southwest, and Mamiya understands that her mother is probably there now. William and the company received this information and decided to head there. So with Ruddy's help, the whole company sets off for the castle. On the way, William thinks about the familiar raven and recalls that during the event on the Ardean Bridge, it was reported that all instructions came from the same raven. William continues to think about whether Marjorie is breaking the agreement, but cannot believe it because she was kidnapped, and he thinks there must have been a good reason for it. At this time, a large group of armed people gathered near the castle gates. They shout that they will destroy the royal capital and move forward. They shout that they want money for this girl, Marjorie, who is being carried in a cage on a horse-drawn cart. An unknown man in a hood approaches the cage, his face hidden. He calls Marjorie and calls her a witch. He asks if she is ready to carry out his task, to kill Minister Gory in the castle. He reminds her not to forget that her daughter is being held hostage. Marjorie is chained. She asks to be explained how to kill the minister without magic. The man says he will free her when the time comes. She is angry at her situation and at the handcuffs with which she was shackled. Marjorie recalls that she once left home to look for materials for magical weapons and left Mamiya in the care of another person. When she was walking through the forest, a stranger called to her. He was an old man in a hood, his face barely visible. She asked him who he was. He continued the conversation and said that he did not expect her to leave her daughter alone in the village and go so far away for such a long time, which made Marjorie upset, and she asked him to repeat. At that moment, a man approached her and put handcuffs on her. Later, his partner appeared, and she could not resist, and then the stranger said that he needed her help. After that, instructions began to come from the unknown man, including regarding events in the Arshan Valley, and she continued to follow them, not realizing what they aimed to achieve. And now she understands that their main goal is the secret assassination of Minister Gory. She knows that the minister is quite devoted, but despite this has enemies. Marjorie believes that she does not want to kill the minister, but she needs to decide what to do next. She quietly asked Mamiya to wait. At that moment, voices are heard from the sky. The stranger raises his head and asks what happened. Marjorie also raises her head and recognizes the voice. Ruddy flies overhead, and Mamiya sits on his back, shouting for her mother to be returned to her. Marjorie barely utters Mamiya. Mamiya waves her staff and directs magical power at the crowd. The whole group, Aquino, Ganal, and Sonal, join the fight. A fierce battle begins. A stranger near the cage says that things are going badly and hurriedly goes in an unknown direction. Marjorie tries to stop him by shouting. From behind, she hears someone calling her name. She turns and sees William in front of her. She asks why he is here. William says he will explain everything later. He asks why she has handcuffs. She replies that they block her magical power. William draws his dagger. Marjorie asks where he got such a weapon, and he says he will free her now. He is glad he was able to make such a useful tool in advance. William manages to remove the handcuffs with the dagger. Meanwhile, Aikido continues to fight a stronger enemy. She realizes that they are too strong and outnumber her. At that moment, a deafening thunderclap sounded in the sky and a bright lightning flash erupted. Freed from captivity, Marjorie broke out of the cage, full of strength and energy. She says that having returned her daughter in magic, she asks for the right to punish her tormentors. All armed rebels raise their heads and look at the sky. Amid the lightning flashes appears the silhouette of an unknown animal. The lightning intensifies and illuminates a crowd of armed men who are very frightened. A fiery dragon appeared in the sky. It is a storm raven from Marjorie's magical arsenal. It simply burns the rebels with its blazing flame, and in a short time the battlefield is strewn with corpses. William whistles on the spot. Hanel says in surprise, "Wow, wow." Aquino is impressed by such magical power. Marjorie looks at this with admiration. Mamiya runs up to her and calls Mom. She runs up and throws herself into her arms. Marjorie kneels down, hugs her daughter, and says she is very glad that she is healthy. Mamiya says that William and company saved her. Marjorie asks William where he came from. MC hesitates with the answer. Marjorie addresses her daughter and tries to find out whether she is telling the truth or lied to her about the peasants. She says that she must be more careful because it is unknown what would have happened if she had been captured, as she was saved only thanks to William and others. William returns to Marjorie and says that they are all very glad that she is alive. But he has a question. Marjorie begins to accuse William and seriously says that if he had not left the company and continued to sell her materials for magical weapons as before, she would not have left her home and no one would have attacked Mamiya and the villagers. William froze at these words and even slightly opened his mouth. Marjorie laughed and said that it was all just a joke. The main character begins to think and cannot believe that the invader planned to secretly kill Minister Gory. William, someone calls him loudly. He turns around and sees that Limit is rushing to him on horseback, accompanied by numerous cavalry. She dismounted and began to explain that they arrived at the village of Taste, but were told that William and the others went to the old castle, so they came here. Norman appears next and immediately asks what happened here. William shows him the recent battlefield strewn with corpses. After the meeting and conversation, they set up camp for the night near the castle walls, and while the group was not yet ready to sleep, they went to inspect the castle walls. Mamiya is intently looking at the building in the distance. Aquino asks her what happened. Mamiya says that she is seeing this building for the first time, although she read about it in a book. A rather large building. Gentle joins the conversation and asks, because he did not think there was such a huge building in the capital. Mamiya hears the word capital and is surprised. Ganel says that William took him to the capital when he was there on business. Mamiya asks what the capital is like and adds that she has never been outside her village before. Ganon says that the capital is teeming with people and has many different treats, and that's not all, he adds. Mamiya and Ganel continue talking, even though it is already late at night and they do not notice the time at all. Keynote and Limit, who went out to look for them, find them talking, do not interfere, and watch what is happening with a smile, while William comes out of the castle gates and says that it is already night outside. William sees the whole group waiting for him and asks in surprise if they really have not slept. He is invited to dinner. William and Gandalf sit at the table. Agnes serves plates of food. She says that everyone has already eaten. William thanks Agnes. He says he is so hungry he could eat a horse. William eats slowly and begins to explain that preparing the report for the entire Order of the Knights took a lot of time. But nothing can be done about it because it concerns a plan to kill Minister Gory. Keynote and BMC join the conversation and say she is right. William continues and says that checking the details of this case will not be difficult. However, the people who have already been interrogated know nothing about the one who ordered the murder, and he is still active, so he will not be so easy to find. MC further claims that this is the case of those who are against the revision of the treaty as a whole, and compared to the case of the Great Bridge, this plan is much simpler because the goal was to immediately kill Minister Gory. William wants to know what force the conspirators plan to use if the treaty is revised. Marjorie turns back and says that she has finished her business. Mamiya runs up to her and hugs her joyfully, and William says that Marjorie did a good job. She explains that she used her familiar and helped people who promised not to tell anyone that she was forced to carry out criminal orders. Wonderful, exclaims William. Mamiya tells her mother that she was very worried. Marjorie apologizes to her daughter. Marjorie addresses William and asks if what the girl named Limit told her about the construction of a new village is true. William continues eating dinner, pausing to say that it is true, but they are only halfway there. Marjorie asks her daughter if she wants to go to the new village. William even stops eating when she asks this question, and everyone else present is tense. Mamiya is puzzled. Marjorie says that after seeing Mamiya's magic today, she realized that her daughter has become a true master and is very surprised by her abilities. But Marjorie adds that only if Mamiya really wants to become a wizard. Against the backdrop of a lonely moon in the night sky, Marjorie looks into her daughter's eyes and says that she will have to leave her native nest and set out into the world. Mamiya thinks for a moment and confidently replies that she is ready for such a step without a shadow of doubt in her eyes. Marjorie looks at her daughter tenderly. She turns to William and asks if he has any objections. William smiles and replies, of course not. Marjorie has mixed feelings. On one hand, she is happy for her daughter, and on the other, she worries about being separated from her. The company is in a good mood and ready for new adventures. And a deep night falls over the old castle. The whole company returns to their native village and begins to attend to their affairs. He laughs loudly, saying the phrase, "It doesn't work." MC begins to teach Mamiya magic. She takes the staff again and asks if she is doing everything correctly. William says that magic differs from craft in its purpose. At that moment, Ganel approaches them and says that it's good that William is becoming a teacher. Kenneth, who works in the field, watches them from afar. He tells William to hold on. Janet approaches Kenneth and greets him. Kenneth responds. Janet asks how Kenneth manages the work in the field. Kenneth says that all his success is thanks to William. He never thought such a life awaited him. Kenneth says that during the liberation of the village task from bandits, he was also arrested and thrown behind bars. His former partners, who met him in the cell, began accusing him of betrayal, and he thought he would not survive. At that moment, someone called him. It was William. The leader called representatives of the Night Order and began explaining that Kenneth helped liberate the village. Kenneth was released on the condition that he remain under William's supervision. DMC then asked Kenneth to help build the village, and in response he swore that he would start life with a clean slate. Kenneth continues. At the same time, he suddenly shouted loudly that he would follow William all his life. He returns to Genel and asks if he has not forgotten about the matter with William. Genel recalls that he almost forgot. He returns to William and loudly says, "William, we have guests." An unexpected guest is the head of the village, Velgan Atkins, a bald man of respectable age with a beard and mustache. William meets him and leads him to the house. Atkins inspects the 3-story building and says he did not expect that the small house would be turned into a large one. William explains that it is true because the number of villagers is growing and more housing is needed. Atkins says that the village has become much livelier. William replies that some of the new residents are from his village. He invites Atkins to look at the achievements of the new village as a sign of gratitude. They enter the house and sit at the table to drink tea. William says that he personally received a letter from Minister Gori. Atkins notes that this was even written about in the newspapers. William says that it seems the contract review is in full swing. He sadly says that because of this, his daughter is now always busy and has completely forgotten about him. Limit, who is present during the conversation, asks who his daughter is. William apologizes and asks if he had not mentioned it before. He says that Akin's daughter is named Yuri's, and everyone asks with surprise if that is really so. Atkins enjoys a delicious cup of tea and says that his daughter is not yet married, although she is already at the perfect age, and gently adds that she is going her own way. Atkins asks William to tell Yuri's that next time he sees her, she should visit her father more often. Atkins continues his speech by saying that the father has started to look like a drunkard because he drank too much due to all these problems. He puts the cup on the table, leans toward the floor, and says that he almost forgot about the gifts he brought. Atkins takes a basket with seedlings and puts it on the table. He says that they are engaged in plowing and field cultivation. William and the company gladly accept the gift. Atkins explains that during the growing season, they often hold celebrations to ensure a good harvest. He suggests organizing something similar in the new village. This idea arouses great interest in William. After some time, William gathers all the villagers and thanks them because the village has grown and the number of residents has increased significantly. He says that as a token of gratitude for the work done and for further development, they throw a party. This is an unexpected but very joyful news for all the residents. And so the long-awaited festive day has come. For the convenience of the residents, trade stalls were set up on Main Street and the village was decorated with garlands and flags. William and Limit go to see the results of the preparations and are amazed at how lively the streets are. Ganel invites Mamiya to take a walk with him. William walks down the street and sees how well everything is organized. He believes it was right to allocate places for residents who cook well. This allowed setting up zones where guests can eat. On the way, he meets Bird and Company, who are drinking tasty local beer. They participated in the construction of the shops. William recalls that he had to make the missing tools and devices himself. When they passed by the confectionery with Ganel, he became interested in the unusual baking molds. William explained that he made these molds from metal specifically for baking. Ganel decides to try the meat delicacies and takes a portion for himself. William laughs and says they don't have octopus, but instead of Kraken, on the street they meet Sonal, whose belly is swollen from overeating, and she even finds it hard to breathe. Limit runs up to her and asks if she probably overeat. For fans of active recreation, an archery competition is held. Agnes hits all the targets. William comes to congratulate the winner and says he expected nothing else. In the final of the arm wrestling competition, Kenneth and Beard meet. All the fans closely watch the match. Limit asks William to come closer. She looks at everything happening with admiration and says that she is seeing such a joyful celebration for the first time. William listens to her with a smile. He says the celebration is just beginning. Limit does not understand what he is talking about. William turns to Mamiya and asks if she is ready. Mamiya takes the staff and goes to the center of the square, where a huge crowd has gathered, and strikes a magical blow with her staff. A fantastically bright and colorful burst of fireworks explodes in the sky. All the spectators are delighted. Limit says this is wonderful. William says he asked Mamiya to use impressive magic. Fireworks are still bursting in the sky above the village. William raises his eyes to the colorful spectacle and sinks into distant memories. In his imagination appears the image of him sitting at the computer desk with empty coffee cans in front of him. At some point, he hears a cannonade outside the window and turns his head in that direction. He sees bright, colorful flashes of fireworks rising into the sky above the roofs of high-rise buildings. All this happens while he is at work in the office of a large company. His vision darkens and he hears fragments of words. Someone is calling William. In the border see Mamiya, Ganel, Sonal, and Akino stand before him. They all politely say in unison that everyone is waiting for him and ask him to come with them. The party continues and the dancing begins. William thinks for a moment and says he is going. He remembers that he once considered himself lonely in this world, but now it is not so because he has friends. William catches up with the group ahead and joins the crowd of dancers. Almost simultaneously, someone cautiously makes their way through the forest. It is a stranger with long hair. The girl is dressed quite lightly, a shirt with rolled-up sleeves, short shorts, knee-high stockings, and short boots. In her hands she holds a scythe with a blade decorated with an unusual ornament. She comes out to the edge of the forest, stops by a tree, and attentively looks at the fireworks in the new village. The next morning, William, Limit, and Akino go for a walk in the forest. They want to look at the construction of the road to the capital of the kingdom. Limit wonders if it will take a little more time before the road reaches Hubbard. William says that thanks to everyone's efforts, good results have been achieved, and he considers it necessary to go to the capital and report on the work done. Limit hysterically shouts that he also wants to go to the capital, and Akino picks it up and also shouts that he wants to go with William. BMC states that it will no longer allow working at night. Limit and Akino are offended by William's words. William, someone is calling him. He turns around and sees Ganel in front of him, who says he brought lunch. William thanks him in response. MCS how Sonal feels. Ganel says that yesterday at the festival she seemed to have overdone it. William recalls that Sonal felt bad yesterday. She had a bloated stomach and had to lie down. Lemmy came to check how she was feeling. Ganel sees an unfamiliar object in William's hands and asks what it is. MC shows him an object that looks like an electronic tablet. Says that this is a magical energy detector. Gentle asks in surprise if William really knows how to make magical energy detectors. MC says that he once saw an experienced illusionist technician who made such a device and asked Mamiya to help make the same. William believes that there are many evil spirits in their area and that the detector will help increase safety. William, deep in the forest together with Limit, Akino, and Genel, Ruddy sits nearby. They continue to examine the detector. William says that the device is still in development because magical devices are complex, and so far it has a limited range. At one moment, glowing dots appear on the detector screen, and Gano suspects that the glow comes from their mana. William pauses for a moment, not understanding what it is. Unfamiliar and suspicious sounds begin to grow around them. The glow on the detector screen becomes brighter and stronger. It starts to get dark in the forest. The whole group realizes that they are surrounded by a hostile force. Monsters emerge from the thickets. Friends are ready for battle. They simultaneously grab weapons. Akino asks William to protect the Limit. William understands everything without words. Akino is the first to engage in battle with a monster resembling a partisan, several times larger than our heroes and having large fangs. At this moment, Ganel joins the fight and confidently demonstrates his hand-to-hand combat skills. Many monsters attack from all sides. William cannot understand where so many monsters came from. He believes it is probably due to active deforestation. The The tree behind William turns out to be treacherous. One of its branches reaches out to the main character and grabs his right hand, in which he holds a dagger. Limit sees this and shouts to him, trying to warn him, but it is already too late. William gathers all his strength and tries to break free from this grip, but he lacks the power. At that moment, an unknown force cut the tree trunk at the root. The tree falls and scares away the monsters. Limit looks anxiously. Kino and Hennel are confused, and Hennel sees how the monsters quickly scatter. William rises from his knees after the amazing release and lifts his head, seeing an old acquaintance before him. It is the same stranger who is watching the fireworks at the edge of the forest. William turns to her and says uncertainly, "Lydia." They sit down and start talking. William asks if she is lost. Lydia answers that she is. She begins to tell him that she received information from her grandfather about his trip to Virga and about his business contacts. After that, she went to help William. She reached the state of a Virga, but then got lost. Lydia says that she wandered into the forest, where she saw lights rising, and decided to go in that direction. William realizes that Lydia saw their festive fireworks from the festival at that time. And in the end, she got completely lost. Everyone around is now listening attentively. She says that she continued to wander through the forest, recently heard strange sounds, and went that way. When she came out onto a clearing, she saw monsters attacking William and his companions, so she had to intervene, and William listens to her story and thanks her for the help. William returns to his comrades and reports that this girl is the granddaughter of the blacksmith Dennis. Akino surprisingly addresses the blacksmith Dooney, and Gano with unquenchable curiosity asks if this is the legendary blacksmith. Lydia calmly hands William a folded sheet and says that it is from her grandfather. Ask Dennis from MC. William unfolds the paper and reads that he must take care of his granddaughter. He understands that this message is in the spirit of Dennis. From the events that happened some time ago, William, accompanied by Ruddy, sets off on the road. They traveled a bit and William begins to recall that they are already somewhere near the destination. Ruddy starts this week. MC asks if he wants to know where he is heading. William cheerfully says that he is going to Dennis's workshop because he has an order there from the Avert family. MC says he has an idea to establish cooperation. He adds that, according to rumors, Dennis is a bit peculiar and rarely takes on work. William got lost in memories. He recalls how he once saw a sword made by Dennis. The sword was extraordinarily beautiful. Its beauty took his breath away. He also remembers walking through the forest and seeing a little girl. When William approached, she was holding an unknown book and crying, and the main character asked if everything was all right. At that moment, the girl opened the book and began to read. William understood the meaning of the words and realized that it was a book of spells. He wondered how it ended up in the hands of a child. The girl raised an unusual sword above her head and began to swing it. William only managed to shout, "Don't rush. She is not an enemy. Don't do this." The blade of the sword was decorated with an extraordinarily beautiful ornament. The swing of the sword caused the girl to lose her balance and fall, losing consciousness. William and Ruddy were frightened at that moment. It began to get dark in the forest. On his estate, Dennis was looking for his granddaughter Lydia. He remembered that he had sent her to the neighboring village for shopping, but it was hard for him to recall because his memory had greatly deteriorated. Dennis sees William coming towards him, carrying Lydia on his back like a sack, and Lydia happily runs to hug her grandfather. After Dennis and William put Lydia to sleep, they sat at the table and began drinking tea. Dennis started to tell that the magical book he gave his granddaughter contains all the weapons he forged. He added that to create something, one must know everything about it. Dennis said he wants Lydia to surpass him as a blacksmith. But she was quite shy and found it difficult to express her thoughts. Dennis looked at his granddaughter, who was sleeping. He continued, saying that because of her clumsiness, she takes the blacksmith's craft very seriously. Then Dennis said that as a token of gratitude for saving his granddaughter, he is ready to take over William's work. He looks at everyone gathered and recalls that it was from this moment that his friendship with Dennis and Lydia began. Limit asks Lydia if she is hungry and gives her some bread. Lydia replies that she is a little hungry. Akino also brings food and tells Lydia to help herself. Lydia, who is quite tired, expresses her immense gratitude to them. William is very happy about this meeting and how everything turned out today. Meanwhile, in the now mostly forgotten Barnett Company, events proceed as usual. Mr. Barnett pounds his fist on the table. He continues to shout that the attack on the capital, the murder of Minister Gori, and the plan to frame the inhabitants of the Kingdom of Dal as the main culprits to start a war between the two countries were all a complete failure. Opposite him stands Laston's son, who asks his father to calm down. Barnett continues to shout that in such a situation it is impossible to calm down, and that Laston should also think a little about all the problems. The latter smiles and says that he has already come up with something. He gives his father a sheet of paper and says that a buyer has arrived. Barnett became interested in this news. He takes the paper from his son's hands and reads it, noticing with surprise that it is the same. He smiles slyly and tells his father that this guest came from the sea. Barnett and Last silently look at each other.